welcome back. Today we're going to be doing some moss garden style nails. To start off, I applied a base coat and a base color. I'm using this sheer jelly pink for my base color, and I applied 2 layers. After the second layer is cured, I'm going to go in with a dark green color. I'm using this one here. I am applying some of this polish onto my palette because I am making this design a French moss nail, I guess you can say, because I'm just applying it to the tip. So I'm using the brush to just kind of set out how deep of a French I want and polish the tip fully. And then I'm going to use a nail art brush to apply the green to the side. So that's why I put some of that green onto a palette, because I'll be using that green to fill in the remainder of the French. If you want a full moss nail, then you can simply just polish your nail or nails a green color. If you want to make it like this French tip, then just apply the green to the tip. And I do recommend that you use a green color wherever you're going to apply your moss. A little later on in this video, you'll get more of a visual idea of why. But basically, whatever color you use as your base color has the possibility of showing through underneath the moss. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're using a base color like a white. So I am just making all of the nails a French tip. I'm only applying 1 layer because I'm going to apply the moss on top of it. Here is the moss that I'm using. It's green reindeer moss, and I got this from Dollar Tree. It comes with a good amount in a pack, especially if you're just using the moss for nails, because you don't need a lot of this at all. So if you find moss in a smaller pack or cheaper, then you can get that. But that one was $1.25 at $1.25 Tree. So I have a piece of paper towel. This is an open pack that I already had, and I keep that paper towel in it so I can just reuse it. Took some of the moss out and laid it on the piece of paper towel. With this moss, you'll notice there's like some long stems throughout it, and I don't like those. So if I see them, I just pull them to the side. Or you can just cut those up if your nail is long enough. Maybe you don't have to cut those little stems. But I'm using short nails today, so I want small pieces of moss. So if your moss comes already really small, then perfect. Otherwise, you can do what I'm doing here. And I just take a chunk of the moss, kind of roll it up into a ball so it's easier to hold, while I cut it up into smaller pieces. Personally, I like to do this. The moss is usually in long pieces, and I don't really like that even when I'm making them on longer nails. So I just chop up a whole bunch of the moss. These are some of the charms I'm going to be using. So from that tray, I'm going to be using the white pearls, and those are like flat back pearls. And I'm going to be using these pink flowers. They're also flat, and I have multiple sizes. And I'm going to be using some butterflies. I also have a mix here, and there's some small flowers that are a little bit more 3D. So I'll be adding in a couple of those as well. I try to use the smallest ones, like this size here, because my nails are short, so I don't want it to be too overbearing. And the butterflies that I'm using are 3D, but they have like a flat bottom to them. So now it's time to start adding the moss and charms. Because the butterflies are 3D and they really stick out, I don't like to apply them directly onto the moss. What I like to do is apply them to my nail, and then I apply moss going around it. So it sort of looks like the butterfly is sticking out of the moss, you know? And I like to apply my charms and also the moss with either a builder gel in a bottle, or you can even get those 10-in-1 glue gels on Amazon that come in a bottle. So that is what I'm using for this entire set. And I applied my butterfly. I did use a flash cure lamp, so I just cured it enough to where it stays put. And then I applied some of that gel in a bottle to my nail. I like to work in sections with the moss. And I took some tweezers and applied the moss right on top of all of the areas I applied the gel to. I have seen people do this and they dip their nail in the moss. Personally, I like to just pick up the pieces and apply it to the nail. I can make where I put the moss more intentional, and if there's little pieces of the moss that I don't like, then it won't get stuck on the nail. So here I'm flash curing all of the moss, and then once I have it set, I do put it in my big lamp to cure more, and then I come back with my glue gel, apply more, and apply more moss. So I'm applying the moss to the green area only. And if you find that there's some empty spaces, you can always go back in, apply more adhesive, whatever adhesive you're using to apply the moss, whether that is builder gel or nail glue or something like that. You can go back in and apply more moss to those areas that seem a little sparse. So I'm just going to start adding some of the little charms. I'm using these pearls here. I just applied a drop of that glue gel that I'm using, and then I applied the charm right on top of it. And again, I'm just flash curing so that I can work faster instead of putting my nail in the lamp every single time I apply moss or a charm. And here are one of my nails done, and I'm showing you guys here along the edge of the nail on the sides, you can see the green, and you can see that there's not moss on that. However, because it's green, it's not so noticeable. If my nail was fully pink without the green underneath the moss, then you would absolutely notice the pink. And I've done a nail like that and realized right away I did not like it. So I like to add the green, and this is what I was saying earlier with making sure you add green wherever you're going to place that moss at. Also, it kind of sets the foundation, right? So if you're doing the French design, you know exactly where you need to go with your moss. So it just kind of helps you out a little bit. So I'm just adding more of those pearl charms. Also, the flat flowers I apply on top of the moss. So the bigger charms like the butterflies, and then those more 3D flowers, I like to add directly on the nail. And these little flat flowers, because they're flat, I don't mind applying them right on top of the moss. So just keep that in mind if you're using charms that are 3D, 4D. You might have a better look if you apply them directly to the nail as opposed to applying them on top of the moss. And if you're using smaller charms like those pearls and those flat flowers that I'm using, you can apply those directly on the moss. So that is one of the nails done. And as far as a top coat, I just apply it to the pink area. So I don't apply no top coat to the moss parts. If you want to, you absolutely can, but all of the moss that I add to the nails are pretty secure, and the charms are as well, but it's just a preference if you want to apply a little top coat over the entire nail, or even just some areas maybe, you can do so. So this is my pinky nail, and because it's on the smaller side, I'm just going to apply smaller charms. So I'm starting off applying the moss as opposed to applying any charms first, because any of my charms are going to go directly on top of the moss. This next nail that I'm starting off with a charm because I'm going to use one of the bigger flowers. So you see the flower sticks out more. I like to apply those charms first. So I applied some of my glue gel, put the charm on top, and now I'm going in with little pieces of moss and going around the flower with it. A little tip, if you're using builder gel or the glue gel to secure your moss and especially your charms is to apply some of the gel to your nail, cure it for like 2 to 3 seconds. And what happens is it thickens it up just a little bit, doesn't fully cure it, but it thickens it up a little bit more. That way, when you apply your charms directly on it, your charms aren't like sliding off and you have more time to work around your charms without worrying about if it's going to slide and move around. So I like to do that. It just helps with the charms and even the moss stick better, and you're able to continue working. And then you can go ahead and flash cure for a few more seconds and then fully cure in your big lamp. I also like to flatten out the moss just a little bit while it's curing so that it stays put to how I like it, because sometimes some of the pieces might stick up a little bit more than I want. So you can use a tool like tweezers or just something to hold an area down while you flash cure it, just to secure it, and then you can fully cure it. And I do the same thing with some of the charms, especially those flat flower ones. I just apply the glue, apply the charm on top of it, and then I kind of push it down a little bit while I'm flash curing, just so it's not sticking up too much. And one last tip is to make sure that your moss looks even. So take a look at all the nails you did and you will notice if there's some areas, specifically the sides of the nails, where you need to add more moss so your nails look more even and doesn't look like you ran out of moss for some of them. And that is pretty much it. I'm going to show you guys the final look with both short nails and long. And this is how the final set came out. I think they came out so adorable. I did end up wearing them and I'll give you guys a couple of tips. But I did also make the same set using some long oval nails. And these are like an extra long. And this is how they look. So when I wore them, I didn't have any issues with the moss coming off. If you want to be on the safe side, you can always apply top coat to the moss areas, or you can even just kind of dab in some top coat in between the moss pieces if you don't want to fully coat it in top coat. And also wear gloves when you're doing things like washing dishes and cleaning your house. You can wash your hands, that's not a problem, but just be careful and try not to be too rough on your nails. But that's all for today's video. Let me know what you guys think and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.